If your company has ever received an FDA warning letter, or you work in quality or regulatory and you know it's always a possibility, this video is worth 7 to 10 minutes of your time. If you've just had one land or you've got a 483 and you know what's coming, I get it. This is going to be one of the most stressful periods of your career. Everything else has stopped, your inbox looks completely different and your weekends don't exist anymore. And on top of managing the actual FDA response, someone's going to ask you very soon, probably already have, how are we going to resource this? And that's what this video is about. I'm Nathan and I co-run CAPU Search, and we're a specialist recruitment company in the medical device and IVD industry. I've run several of these projects over the years, and I mean big ones. We're talking between 20 and 40 contractors in a single company. And I want to share what I saw, not from a textbook angle, what it's like actually being in it. Because most of what's out there on this topic is either written by a consultant that's never had to hire 20 to 40 contractors in one time, or it's written from such a high level that it doesn't actually help you when you're in the middle of it. So let me talk you through what I've seen, what works, what doesn't work, and what I'd be doing if I was sitting in your chair. And the first of these projects that I was involved with started off as kind of an accident. I was already working with the company, I was placing contractors here and there, and there was always one particular contractor that I'd always sell back to the company that had been there before. I knew that if there was a requirement, they would want them back, so I just kept bringing it up. I was probably quite annoying, to be honest, but eventually they said yes. They also said, can we have a chat because we've got a big project we need help with. Turns out they just had the FDA warning letter, and that conversation ended up turning into the biggest project of my career. And that pattern, being in the relationship before the situation arises, that's happened to me on more than one occasion. It's not luck exactly, but when you're putting yourself in front of the right people, when the situation changes, you're there. Which is part of the reason I've made this video, but I'll come back to that later. So what does it actually look like when the project lands? The first thing that happens is that everything changes, and I mean everything. Whatever was on the roadmap, whatever projects people were working on, whatever was the key priorities for that quarter, everything's gone. Every resource in quality and regulatory is focused on one thing: the warning letter, the response, and then the remediation. For the people leading that, say the VP of quality or the head of regulatory, whoever is accountable, this is going to be pressure like you've never felt before. And I want to be honest about this because I feel it gets glossed over. Most people have never been through an FDA warning letter before. It's one thing to read about them, and it's something entirely different to the person whose name is on the response. And when I was speaking to the directors directly, and I had limited time with them, you could see that they were firefighting. I was lucky to get 20 minutes or so with them. And on top of all of that, they had to build a contractor workforce that they've never done before at a pace they've never experienced. And that's the reality of it. If you're in that situation and someone comes to you with a perfectly polished resource plan, it doesn't land well because it doesn't acknowledge how hard the situation actually is. So I just want to say it plainly. This is going to be one of the hardest things that you do in your career. And the resourcing piece, that's just one of many things that are going to land on you at the same time. But let's talk about how you actually resource this, because this is where I see companies go wrong. The instincts when a warning letter lands is to hire people. Get people in. Get regulatory affairs people in. Get the quality engineers. Just start working through the issue. That instinct isn't wrong. You do need those people. But if that's your first move, without a clear structure, you end up with a group of contractors that don't know each other, they have no direction, and they're all looking up to the quality director, who's already at capacity, by the way, and this just doesn't work. The most important hire on any of these projects is not a specialist contractor. It's the program lead. I can't stress this enough, as I've seen the difference it makes. What you need is someone that's been through an FDA remediation project before. Someone who understands how to structure the response, how to communicate with the agency, what the FDA actually want to see, and in what format. But equally, this is the bit that gets missed. You need someone that can look at your specific situation, that can map the gaps across your quality system, identify which skill sets you need to bring in what order, and for how long. We placed that person on more than one of these projects. And what happened every time is they come in, they get up to speed quickly, and they effectively take over the resourcing brief from the quality director. The quality director was still involved, of course they were, but they weren't spending their limited time briefing a recruiter on 20 different roles. They had one person managing the whole piece. It's a completely different dynamic, and the projects that ran that way were the ones that ran well. The other thing that I want to talk about is pace, and I think this is where most companies underestimate what's required. You cannot run a normal hiring process on a remediation project. The FDA is not waiting for your procurement cycle. The timelines are compressed, the stakes are high, and for every week that you don't have the right resource, that's another week of remediation work not being done. The contractors that are genuinely useful in these projects are the ones that have been in this environment before. They understand the pace and they understand the pressure. They can come in, they get set up quickly, and they can start contributing without a long runway. The ones that haven't worked in this kind of environment before can struggle because the intensity is so much more than a normal contractor engagement. So when hiring for this, always ask about FDA remediation experience. Not just quality experience, not just regulatory experience. Have they been through an FDA warning letter process before? That question alone will filter out the people that are good on paper but aren't quite right for this situation. The same goes for your recruitment partner. A generalist recruiter, even if they're good, don't have the network within quality and regulatory contractors to move at the pace that you need. The difference in time to hire when working with a specialist contract recruiter that understands your space versus someone that doesn't hasn't is significant. That's not me pitching you, it's just true, and it matters when you're under this kind of time pressure. So to bring it together, if you're in the middle of this situation right now, or you can see it coming, here's what I'd focus on. Get the program lead in first. Don't start placing contractors until you've mapped the gaps and you've shaped the resourcing. That one decision changes everything downstream. Move faster than feels comfortable. The pace required on these projects is different to anything else. Brace that early rather than trying to run a normal process. Be specific about what you need. The brief you give your recruitment partner matters. The more context you give around the specific observations, the product portfolio, and the timelines, the better the people that you get back. Vague briefs lead to generic CVs. And plan for the long haul, as these projects last a lot longer than expected. What starts as a 6-month response will end up being an 18 to 24-month project. The contractors you bring in need to understand this, and you need to be thinking about knowledge transfer from day one, so that the permanent team own the process at the end rather than you being reliant on contractors indefinitely. If you're currently going through something like this and you'd like to have a chat, you can easily find me through LinkedIn or via the CAPU Search website. When this hits, it hits fast, and the companies that I've seen get through it aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest resources, they're the ones that made the right calls early.